Hey everybody, welcome back. And today we are doing a video, which is kind of a sister video to the last video that went up, which is palettes I don't regret missing out on, or I don't regret passing on. Today I want to talk about some palettes, some eyeshadow palettes that I absolutely 100% regret and wish I had in my collection. So there aren't going to be as many of these because I tend to just buy something if I want it. But there are a few that got away, and I thought it would be fun to go down memory lane and talk about some of these palettes. So if you guys want to know what palettes I regret missing out on, then stick around. The first one, and probably my biggest makeup regret of all time, is the Balm Cosmetics Muppets palette. I want this palette still to this day. If for those of you who don't remember, the Balm came out with this limited edition palette, and when I say limited edition, I mean there were 1,000 that came out and each one was numbered. And I am stalking two on Poshmark because I am trying to decide on if I want to spend the $150 on them. It's terrible. It's terrible. This palette is just so much fun. It's so beautiful. It just is so, it's so representative of the Muppet Show. I love the Muppets, guys. The Muppet movie is one of my all-time favorite movies. I think it is hilarious. Muppet Treasure Island is amazing. I love A Muppet Christmas Carol. There's something about the Muppets, and I've always been a big fan. And, you know, so when that palette came out, I was just getting into YouTube and just getting into makeup, and I totally missed out on it. And I was so bummed. It is my biggest regret to this day that I do not have one of those palettes. Another palette that I regret missing out on is the Anastasia Beverly Hills and Amrezy collaboration. And this came out, God, what, like 5 years ago? I was late to the game on Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadows. I did not buy my first eyeshadow palette until the tail end of the Self-Made palette coming out, or the Self-Made palette being out. I got it like at the very tail end of it being out on the market, and I just fell in love with the eyeshadows. And I was just so, looking back on it, I'm so bummed I waited so long because I really, really love the Amrezy palette. I love the color scheme. I think it's absolutely stunning and beautiful, and it's just one of those things that I wish I had gotten my hands on. Another palette that I really wish I had not missed out on was the Kat Von D Pastel Goth palette. Now this palette I think was so beautiful, and I think this palette is just gorgeous, especially for one shadow easy looks. And I don't know, for some reason I just did not go to Sephora and pick it up. I don't know what I was thinking, but I completely 100% regret missing out on that palette. I think it's just such a beautiful palette. I think it would have been very unique in my collection at the time because there was really nothing like it out on the market. And I was just really like, looking back on them, like I was lazy and I didn't go pick up that palette, and now I'm totally regretting it. Another palette I totally regret missing out on is the MAC and Cinderella collection palette. I did not get anything from that collection, and I totally regret it to this day. I mean, it's you know, it's not like I'm gonna live a half-life without it, but that eyeshadow palette, it was really plain, but I thought it was so beautiful. For me, it was just the packaging was so gorgeous, and the way they packaged the entire collection, that I tried to get my hands on it, and I just kept missing out on it. And I couldn't get it online. I couldn't get it in store. It just didn't happen for me, and I never picked it up. But you know, it's always one of those palettes that got away. And in line with the Disney palettes, I totally regret missing out on the Sephora Story Look palettes for Jasmine and Ariel. I have the one for Cinderella, ironically. I did get that one, but I missed out on the Ariel and the Jasmine palettes, and they are just so beautiful. Absolutely stunning palettes. The way they were packaged, the way they were presented. Now, I heard the eyeshadow quality in those was questionable for some people. Some people loved them, some people didn't. it's undeniable how beautifully they were presented. And it's one of those things that I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, Sephora comes back out and does the full line of Disney princesses, Disney heroines, whatever you want to call it, in that story look format, because the collections were absolutely beautiful. It's another one of those things where if I really wanted to spend the money, I could go online and purchase them, but I don't want to spend the money. And the last palette I'm going to talk about today that I regret missing out on is the Wet n Wild Drinking a Glass of Shine palette. This was a all matte palette. It came out like right before I started getting into Wet n Wild, and it was just a beautiful row of neutrals, a beautiful row of just bright colors, and apparently it was amazing. And I missed out on it. It's one of those palettes I know I would still have, like the like the Comfort Zone and the Blue Had Me at Hello and the Pedal Pusher. It was just a gorgeous palette. It's gorgeous to look at, and especially for good drugstore mattes. I feel like it was just a gem when it came out. It was one of those just really unicorn type palettes, and I totally missed out on it. But guys, I hope this video was interesting for you. Let me know what your palettes are that you are totally bummed you missed out on, and you would get if you could, because I'm always interested to hear what you guys have to say. So I do want to shout out a channel today, and that is Hannah at Smokey Glow. She covers, and she does a lot of makeup, but she covers a lot of topics in makeup, but she does it in a way that's really respectful and that makes you think, and that might not, even if it's not aligning with your point of view, the way she presents it is in a really calm and rational way that makes you evaluate your view and what she's saying, and it just is a really healthy way to tackle some of these more difficult issues. I don't always agree with what she says, but I always listen to what she says because the way she presents herself, and I really, really respect that, and I really want to you know, applaud that, especially in this crazy environment that we have of cancel culture and standing and everything else. She really has a voice, and she speaks for herself, and you can tell she puts a lot of thought into the arguments, into the statements she presents to you, because it means a lot to her, and I think that's really, really cool. So if you have not checked her out, I highly recommend you do that. But guys, I hope you have an amazing day, have a rockin' week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.